It's my nerd world. Welcome to it. I'm thirsty. News right now is drier than the deserts of Jakku, Pisana, and Tatooine combined. We'll go ahead and throw Jeddah in there as well. DC had their big event over the weekend. And Disney and Lucasfilm, I'm looking at you. They brought their fans to a freshwater lake and let them drink in trailers and movie information. But I don't care about DC. I care about Star Wars. And I think that we're going to get a lot of Star Wars news. And that's what a Star Wars podcast is partly going to be about today. We do have some things to talk about in the wake of not having any news. I was listening to another podcast, and it sparked a commentary in my mind that I wanted to share with you this week. Kathleen Kennedy is talking about Mandalorian Season 2. Yes, she's still there. Haters and those that make money off YouTube hating on Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy lives. All right, so we got a lot to get to on the show this week. We also have a brand new sponsor. That brand new sponsor is Zone. 1 million users united with one mission to take back social media. And with your help, Zone will take billions away from social media giants and give it back to you, the user. Now, I'm concerned about the increasing amount of censorship coming from social media companies, and that's why I am a part of Zone. Zone is a brand new social media outlet that's launching very soon, and it's revolutionary. It's a better all-in-one social media alternative, and it eliminates the need for the social media giants. With one profile, you're able to create multiple zones using different avatars that suit your online persona needs. You can become a Zone ambassador. It's free for a limited time, and you're going to get increased influence, as well as a variety of other advantages. Zone is also user-owned, so anyone can invest in Zone to own more of the Zone platform at very little cost. But don't wait. Zone's claimed first will have more influence. Zone launches soon, so join me and claim your Zone today at ourzone.zone. Again, that's ourzone.zone.
It's an instinct. Feeling. The Force brought us together. We're not alone. Good people will fight if we lead them.
People keep telling me they know me. No one does.
But I do.
Long have I waited. And now, you're coming together. Is your undoing.
Confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi. Your destiny. The Force will be with you.
Always.
My Nerd World.
I am your host, Jon Justice, and welcome to a Star Wars podcast here on My Nerd World. I am glad you are with the show this week. I have a special giveaway going on for this week. Your opportunity to win the complete EMBARK trilogy in paperback signed by yours truly, and second, third, and fourth place prizes, which includes signed copies of EMBARK Book 1, the first edition, free delivery, free shipping too. So I will tell you how you can take part in that at the end of the show. Basically, if you go to mynerdworld.net, there's a link there on the homepage. There, look, I told you how you can win, right? I'm adding people to the mailing list. So all you got to do is email me and let me know, hey, I want to take part in the giveaway, and I'll add you to the mailing list, and we'll do the drawing on next week's show. But I'll have more to say about that, basically everything I just said at the end of this show. So, here's the deal. Right now, there's nothing going on. It was supposed to be Celebration Week, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that coming up, because I do believe that we're going to be inundated with Star Wars news very soon. I would anticipate that Disney would be making an announcement soon of something along the same lines of what DC just did, what Warner Brothers just did with their DC Fan Weekend, where they basically held a big online event and had interviews with directors of upcoming DC films and made a bunch of announcements and dropped some behind-the-scenes footage and dropped some trailers of some big DC properties. There was a lot of speculation going on that we were supposed to get the Mandalorian Season 2 trailer last week. I talked about it on the previous week's show, and that didn't pan out. So what some of the leakers are saying, personally, I think they got bad information. I think a lot of these guys are out there soaking up a lot of attention when they don't even really have any real leads, but be that as it may. Those individuals online are saying that Disney and Lucasfilm decided to let DC have their moment in the sun, right? Right in the middle of this pandemic, case-demic world that we live in. They decided to let DC do their thing, and then we'll do our thing. So I'm anticipating that perhaps we're going to get something similar this week with Celebration. And when we get into what should have been Celebration coming up this Thursday, the 27th, I would have started on Wednesday, be that as it may, that we're probably going to get confirmation on a lot of stuff that we've been rumored, including getting that Mandalorian Season 2 trailer. So, hey, look, all that stuff I was going to talk about with Celebration, I just talked about it now, so now I can move on and talk about other things. No, I really do believe that's what's going to end up happening, and I think that we've been dry for a long time apart from the publication side of things. Disney and Lucasfilm were more than likely going to be dropping a ton of information on various projects with this Celebration had it gone on. Because of everything going on in the world, there's been some delays on things. We know the movies have been delayed, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if we ended up finding out what that first 2023 movie is going to be, getting the Mandalorian Season 2 trailer, maybe getting confirmation on some of the other live-action shows. There is an interview that Kathleen Kennedy did for Variety, one portion of it I'm going to share with you in just a moment. And like I said earlier, sorry, haters, Kathleen Kennedy is still there. She's doing an amazing job. I'm excited to get some Star Wars news, man. I watched all the DC stuff they dropped, and, it's okay. I like my superheroes, and I like my Marvel, and I like my DC, and I like my Batmans, and whatever, and Suicide Squads. But I need me some Star Wars. Writing my own sci-fi books helps, but it is no substitute for I need to give me Star Wars. Come on, Bobs. Come on, Kathleen. Come on, Filoni. Come on, Favreau. Give me some Star Wars. I think we're going to get it later on this week, which will be awesome because it's vacation week. Can you tell by my attitude? I'm on vacation right now. How great is that? So, look forward to that. And if we do get some breaking news, expect multiple podcasts. I intend to, as the news breaks, since I am on vacation, to be able to pop online and do some breaking news, My Nerd World Star Wars podcasts. So keep an eye on your feed later this week, and as news comes out, if it does come out, and I expect it's going to come out, then I will be more than happy to share that information with you and give you my thoughts on it, because it is dry, and I need some Star Wars water, even if it's that really gross stuff that the Hababor had his face stuck in that Finn was drinking out of at the beginning of The Force Awakens. It was super gross, but he was really thirsty and drank it anyway. I'm like Finn right now, lapping up all that gross Hababor water. Okay, let's do this.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
So I was listening to another Star Wars podcast. I know, I do that. I listen to other Star Wars shows. I'm not going to tell you which ones, though. I also unsubscribe to other Star Wars shows. And it doesn't take much anymore. It really doesn't. There are so many Star Wars shows out there, right? And I subscribe to a lot of them. That there's some Star Wars shows where, you know what? If you just sort of break roll out of Star Wars, even a little bit, I ain't got no time for you. I'm done. And it cracks me up when hosts of, and look, other hosts can conduct their shows however they want to conduct their shows. I'll conduct my show the way that I want to conduct my show. I like to keep politics out of it. But when people just make quips, and I'm not even going to say which side of the political spectrum they were talking about. When they make quips, it's like, do you not understand that perhaps you could really be turning off a listener of the show by making a comment like that that's completely unrelated from Star Wars, and then you delete, unsubscribe. You're not getting my download anymore. Because this is America. All right. I was listening to the Star Wars Report. That show's fine, by the way. I have no problem with Riley. That's actually a very enjoyable show. But I was listening to the Star Wars Report this week. And Riley, was it Riley? Riley Blanton, I think. Anyway, still subscribe to them. Like that show. Not the show that I was talking about. And I'm not going to tell you which one it was. But the Star Wars Report was, they played a clip from Jon Favreau, which I thought was really interesting. And I talked about this before on the show. Jon Favreau was discussing using George's original references to create The Mandalorian. So not like what I did with EMBARK, where I looked to George Lucas as inspiration to write my stories. Jon Favreau looked at what inspired George Lucas to create The Mandalorian. So the Westerns and Kurosawa and Joseph Campbell to a lesser extent, because there's not as much mythology in The Mandalorian, right? Then one of the hosts made a comment, which I tend to agree with, that too many franchises try and go bigger when they follow up an IP years later on. They really try to raise the bar, and I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe did that. The way that those movies kind of ramped up. I don't know what Disney and Marvel are going to do to try to outdo themselves when it comes to what took place in Infinity War and Endgame. I mean, it doesn't get, look, that finale in Endgame, it doesn't really get much bigger than that when it comes to IPs, right? I mean, they threw everything in there, and they all showed up. And there was a slight lean in from the host implying, and they didn't go all the way in there, but implying that the sequel trilogy kind of did that. By the end of it, they have to go bigger and better. And I just wanted to comment on that because it really stirred some thoughts in my mind that led me down a path in continuing to, for lack of a better term, doing that thing with my fingers, defend the sequel trilogy. I actually think the sequel trilogy didn't do that. And again, this particular host didn't go all in and saying, that's the problem with the sequel trilogy. That wasn't what they said at all. It just got me thinking that I've heard some people complain that, the sequel trilogy felt out of touch with the other films, that it didn't do a good job in honoring the prequels and the original trilogy. And I actually personally believe the sequel trilogy really did. I love the sequel trilogy. I don't hide that fact. And as time goes on, as we're just talking about weeks, right? We've only been, half a year out from the end of The Rise of Skywalker. And I remember going into The Rise of Skywalker, and we'll kind of focus on that. We'll talk about the other films. But I kind of went into The Rise of Skywalker expecting, to a certain extent, an even much larger finale, an end to that trilogy. And what we ended up getting in The Rise of Skywalker was actually fairly subtle and subdued. And I thought they did a really good job. So when you look at The Force Awakens, I actually think there's a lot of comparisons that you can make to what JJ did in The Force Awakens to what Jon Favreau did with The Mandalorian in trying to make both of their pieces of Star Wars content relatable and have it give off the same type of vibes that those original films did, and especially A New Hope. The Mandalorian certainly nailed that vibe. I think it actually nailed the vibe to the point where it may have been, at certain points, a little too close to the source material. I was just watching A New Hope before I came down to my office to record the show today, and I have some other comments on that. But it is paced slower, right? Still incredibly compelling. There is just something magical about A New Hope, and I will continue to say that. Every time I sit down and watch it, there is something just precious and magical about that film. But I've also been watching The Mandalorian as of late, and I actually think The Mandalorian could benefit from a slight pickup in its pacing. And I hope that we get that in Season 2. I hope my theory that Jon Favreau, the showrunner for The Mandalorian, is going to treat the 3 seasons of The Mandalorian like they each represent the movies in the original trilogy, so that the second season is going to be a little darker, going to get a little bit more in-depth with characters. We're going to have new characters, and it's going to be a little meatier and maybe paced a little differently. When you look at The Force Awakens, I think J.J. Abrams did a really good job. It was, to a certain extent, as people have argued, I think there is some validity to the fact that it's kind of a soft reboot, but it's not. It does echo a bit of all the movies in the original trilogy. And it is very straightforward and almost simplistic in terms of its plot when introducing and focusing on this character Rey, and then also Kylo Ren, who end up driving all of this sequel trilogy. I actually think it does a very good job. I enjoy The Force Awakens. It is my least favorite of the sequel trilogies, but that doesn't mean that I don't adore that film. If I'm ranking them, of the three, I'll probably default to watching The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker if I'm not watching them in order before I go to The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens is a great film where I can throw it on in the background if I'm doing something else. If I just want a 2-hour romp of Star Wars and I'm not looking to do, something a little bit meatier, it's going to be a toss-up between The Force Awakens and The Rise of Skywalker. But The Force Awakens serves a certain role in a particular mood when it comes to watching Star Wars. But it is a very sort of simplistic, stripped down, not very expansive in scope type of film, and comparatively speaking, a nice complement to what George Lucas did with A New Hope. And then, of course, you get into The Last Jedi, which is conversation around that's been exhausted, and Rian Johnson did very much what the same thing The Empire Strikes Back did in putting the characters through their paces and setting up this grand finale in this epic science fiction space opera, which is The Rise of Skywalker, which I actually love. And when you get to The Rise of Skywalker, J.J. Abrams could have easily have done, along with Chris Terrio writing, what so many people were saying that he should have done. I know there were people complaining at the end when Rey takes out the Emperor that they should have had the ghosts of the other Jedis show up, and I disagree with that completely. This was a story about Ben Solo's redemption and Rey rising to the occasion, wrapping up this entire saga of 9 films, and I thought that it was perfect in its execution of not going overboard. They had every opportunity to go overboard. They could have easily brought in all the other Jedis to take down Palpatine at the end with Rey after she taps into the Force in that moment where they showed the Starscape. They could have easily broadened out that final battle and made it way bigger, and they didn't. That final battle, and I've talked about this before, I wish that it was a little bit more linear in some of the dogfighting, because I feel like the editing is a little kinetic to the point where we're not getting little mini stories that we have inside of the other films. But when you take into account all the other space and vehicle battles that take place in the other movies, that final battle in The Rise of Skywalker fits in perfectly. The focus was something new and different. This invasion on top of a Star Destroyer at the end. I really like how J.J. Abrams played with subtlety to deliver this final film when he could have easily gone bombastic. Sure, we had, 1,000 Star Destroyers with laser cannons on them. Star Wars does that. Super weapons. So let's do a bunch of smaller super weapons instead of doing another big, larger Starkiller base. I really think they did a great job. And I think that subdued battle over Exegol at the end really complements the other films very well, to where none of these movies seem to stick out as being bigger than the other ones. They all fit together within their own trilogies. And then at the end, we get a very sort of subdued celebration on Asian Kloss at the end. We get the reuniting of our core characters. And then we wrap the whole thing up with Rey going, spoiler alert, with Rey going back to Tatooine to bury those lightsabers. And then we just get the Force shot of Luke and Leia while she takes the name. I mean, I really feel like they stuck the landing and didn't outshine the original trilogy while still providing a trilogy that was very much catering to and and appropriate for a modern film-going audience. So yeah, I got all that from listening to Star Wars Report. I just really love the sequel trilogy, and it's just such a bummer to me that it gets so much grief, and I really do think that's just a byproduct of the world that we live in because of social networking. If the sequel trilogy came out and we didn't have this ability to spew out every random thought that we have, I think that we would be looking at a much different take when it comes to how people expressed their positivity or negativity to this sequel trilogy. As always, what do you think? TalkShowNerd@gmail.com, TalkShowNerd@gmail.com. By the way, if you're not on the mailing list and you want to get on the mailing list, you can use that email, and I will also put you in the running for the autographed copies of the EMBARK science fiction space opera series.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Hey, Star Wars haters, you know who you are. Out there, getting clicks, making money off of YouTube by just hating on Star Wars. Ha ha, Kathleen Kennedy's still here. Yeah, there's an interview with, I'm sorry, I'm being a snit, but I'm on vacation and I don't care. Kathleen Kennedy did an interview with Variety Magazine. I wanted to read to you one question and answer. The rest of it's pretty rudimentary, stuff that we already know, nothing real detail-oriented, but this was pretty interesting. At the end of last year, when The Rise of Skywalker came out, you said you wanted to take time out to think about where the franchise is going from here. Are you still doing that? Kathleen Kennedy, that's right, guys, she's still there. She hasn't been fired. Right. Your theories and your clickbaits are wrong. Kathleen Kennedy said this. Oh, yeah, it's an ever-evolving process. You know, when I personally came into this, George had already been having conversations with previous actors, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill. There was a saga that the fans loved, and he never finished. He always talked about doing 9 movies, and he was ready to complete that. And so our focus had been, from the beginning, to finish that saga. Now we're stepping back. Stories have been told within this universe over the last 40-odd years, and there's now the realization that this is a mythology that actually spans some 25,000 years when you really start to look at all the different stories that have been told, whether it's in books and games. We just need the time to step back and really absorb what George has created and then start to think about where things might go. And that's what we've been doing, and we've been having a great deal of fun doing it and meeting with lots of different filmmakers and talent. There's so many fans out there and so many filmmakers that have influenced Star Wars for so long that it's a fantastic opportunity to get a sense of who wants to be a part of this. So that's what we've been doing. I'm going to throw a big, healthy dose of speculation in there. All right, you ready? You prepared? You ready? Here we go. Yeah, they know what they're doing. And what I mean by that is not they know what they're doing. Trust them. I mean, I do, but you can do whatever you want. No, what I mean is, no, they know what their plan is. That was a very diplomatic way of not, giving out any information, letting them know what their mindset is. And if that's the case, then most likely they've been talking about that for a while, and they probably have the next 10 years pretty well mapped out. I think if you were to go into the offices and the story group at Lucasfilm and Disney, or you were able to hack into Kathleen Kennedy's email, you could probably find a confidential piece of information file that shows Star Wars next 10 years and has all the directors attached to it, what the timelines are, what the plots are, and who's directing what. That's my guess at the moment. And I think, like I said before, we're going to have a bit of, some reveals a little bit later on this week. Now, what I like to do is I'm really fascinated by what the fans gravitate toward. And the Star Wars fandom is so large and so broad and so diverse that it's really hard to kind of put your finger on anymore what single thing really makes Star Wars, right? And they've talked about this behind the scenes. Like, what is the thing that gives Star Wars its enduring popularity all these years, and how do you go and recapture that? And for me, and I've said this a lot, I mean, it's the mythology. But the mythology of this grand space opera fantasy is really good, and we know what it is, and we've accepted it, and we like to see where it can go. But there's also the mystery that's involved, and that's where I'm going to continue to hammer this point. This is what Lucasfilm and the content creators need to make sure that we do moving forward. They give us more to the mythology, play off the things that we're familiar with and that we enjoy, the aesthetic, the spaceships, the lived-in universe, right? The conflicts of good versus evil. But make sure you give us that mystery and things that we can chew on and contemplate. Watching A New Hope, and anytime I go watch A New Hope, I'm constantly reminded and taken back to when I was a kid. And not just 5 years old seeing it for the first time, but, 5 years later when I'm 10, 12, 13, 14 and growing up, and that time during my teen years where I kind of separated from Star Wars for a while, but then I ended up gravitating back towards it, as an adult man and becomes a collector and a podcaster and just a fan, and then, ends up carving out a part-time job being an author, which I hope to retire from radio one day and become a full-time author. I think that would be spectacular. Giving us something that we can chew on. And watching A New Hope, there's those little nuggets in the film that George Lucas dropped because he had this grander universe in his mind that we hadn't been shown yet. And so, that "you fought in the Clone Wars" line. I mean, I talk about it a lot on the show, but it's relevant.
No, my father didn't fight in the wars. He was a navigator on a spice freighter.
That's what your uncle told you. He didn't hold with your father's ideals, thought he should have stayed here and not gotten involved.
You fought in the Clone Wars?
You get you fought in the Clone Wars.
Yes. I was once a Jedi Knight, the same as your father.
You get Jedi Knight out of that. You get navigator on a spice freighter in there. The moment when Luke's talking about going to the Academy, when we first saw those films, it was like, what is it? Is he talking about the Imperial Academy? Why did Luke want to go to the Imperial Academy? Well, Luke wanted to get off of Tatooine. He don't want to be there anymore. His buddies had left and gone to the Imperial Academy, and then we find out that they ditched it to go and join the rebellion. He knows it's out there too, but he's trying to find any way he can get off the planet. So all of these little nuggets in this film were left for us to chew on and grow, and we get into The Empire Strikes Back, and that continues to expand, and then we're introduced to the Emperor, and what's that dude about, right? In a world where so many people suffer, including myself, from the fear of missing out, that FOMO, we need that speculation and that intrigue. If I were working, like if Kathleen Kennedy called me up and said, "Hey, John, I love your podcast. Give me some ideas about Star Wars," right? What would you want to see? I'd love to see more about the Sith Eternal. I mean, it's just me personally. From The Rise of Skywalker. How did that whole thing go down? Give me some comic books or a spin-off show about that. I mean, there's a whole... think about the time frame from the end of Return of the Jedi to where we land in the timeline and how many decades passed before we get to the end of The Rise of Skywalker. And behind the scenes, you had a cloned Palpatine back there playing Puppet Master. You had the Sith Eternal creating a massive fleet of thousands of Star Destroyers with Death Star technology. I mean, what else were those, was that group doing? Were they sending out individuals in disguise to wreak havoc on the galaxy, planting seeds? Give me more. Give me some of that. And that's what I hope The Mandalorian continues to do. There's a little bit of intrigue. We got some of the end. Moff Gideon's got his Darksaber. How did he get that, right? Still don't completely know the entire background of Din Djarin, even though we got a bigger, more complete picture by the end of Season 1. We still don't know what's happening with Chilota, with the child yet, and exactly why they want him. So they're planting those seeds, but that mythology too. And I hope that if Ahsoka does appear in the Mandalorian series and gets her own spin-off show, that there is that connection to the Jedi. But when those next pieces of content come out, and when that first movie comes out that is supposed to kick off whatever the next series of saga films is, I hope that it's original within the context of Star Wars, but I also hope that it provides a pathway for us as fans to really be intrigued and to speculate on where it's going and to give us something new, because that's a part of the DNA of Star Wars that works so well. And I don't buy into this. So they just want to make money, greedy, corporate capitalists. No, man, I don't. Look, they do want to make money. Don't misunderstand. And corporations are going to want to put out content that is going to be successful, especially with what we've all been going through for the past, 7 months, 6 months, right? But what's the best way to do that? I think Disney and Lucasfilm learned a very valuable lesson. It's not just pumping out content. And I don't think that was what happened with Solo, right? I mean, that was a timing issue. But Disney and Lucasfilm are not going to want to make that mistake again. And they've already shown they don't want to make that mistake again. And we have to wait many years, a handful of years. Many years, relatively speaking, in terms of being a Star Wars fan. We have to wait many years before we're going to get another Star Wars movie. But they know that, it can't just be a rehash of what we've done. They're going to have to give us something that has a feel of nostalgia to it for fans like me who have been here since the beginning, but also is going to provide something fresh and new that is going to be compelling and interesting and intriguing and going to spark conversation and not negativity. And I do believe they're going to do just fine. The Mandalorians prove that. If you present good Star Wars content and The Mandalorian is good. I'm not going to go so far as to say it's great. It's good. It's really good. I want more. I want to see more of what they're going to do. And I'm really curious to see what happens with this Cassian Andor show and with the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, which we've been told is just going to be one series, but we kind of already knew that already. But Kathleen Kennedy, the story group, everybody working on these things know that, man, we've got to put something out there that's going to be able to build upon what's already there, grow the fandom while still giving the fandom that's been here for so long what they want and giving them something they can chew on. And that's what was so apparent and what's so partly magical about A New Hope is that it did that. We walked in on a story already occurring. And I think that would be really good, too. I think that's a good place to start for Disney and Lucasfilm is, hey, plop us in the middle of something so that we can kind of, look, how do we get there? I'm curious about that, but where are we going from here? And that's what the original Star Wars did. It plopped us right in the middle of something that was already happening. So it already had an energy to it, even if the film was paced like a 1970s movie. All right, as always, what do you think? TalkShowNerd@gmail.com. Again, TalkShowNerd@gmail.com. Drop me an email and let me know.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
I do too. Right. And that's you guys when you write to me on YouTube or you send me an email with TalkShowNerd@gmail.com. All right, we do have some listener feedback this week, and a lot of kind words from you guys writing in based off of what I said. And I'll before I read the listener feedback, I can talk about it a little bit more. But as I mentioned on last week's show, which I recorded on Thursday, and I can't believe it's only been a week now. But our beloved dog, my beloved Bella, she was hurting and she was in a lot of pain. And we had a nurse come by Friday last week, and we said our goodbyes, and it was really difficult. It was really, really difficult. We got her back in a beautiful decorative wooden box. We got her ashes back a couple of days ago before Melinda and Kyle took off to go to California. Again, we were supposed to be going to Disneyland and to Celebration, but that didn't happen, so I'm taking a week off so that I can work on my books. I'm going to finish up book 5 while Melinda continues to edit book 4. But it was a really difficult time last week, and I appreciate you downloading the show and being respectful to the fact that the show is somewhat cathartic for me, and it gives me the opportunity to talk about it. I miss her dearly. God, I loved that dog so much. And she just was she was like she was a fur baby. She was another child in our household and was my best friend and my companion and a comfort to me. And there's a bit of a hole in my heart. We'll fill it again one day, and we'll bring home another puppy because we have a lot of love to give to an animal. But right now we've got her collar and her blanket and her ashes. And this a beautiful booklet that our producer Samantha made for me with a bunch of pictures of her up on our mantle in the room where I spend the most time. And I miss her. I wish you were here, especially with my wife away, but it gets a little easier every day. So I just wanted to say up front, thanks to everybody who wrote in. And there's several comments that allude to that. So first off, the Lowdown Show, Edwin writes in. And before I read you his comment, I did an interview with Edwin on his show, The Lowdown Show. We recorded it yesterday. It's already up and available, talking about the EMBARK series. If you want to go check it out, go to mynerdworld.net and go to the My Nerd World Star Wars podcast page. On the podcast page at mynerdworld.net, the YouTube video is there, or you can link to it on YouTube. Just look for LO Down, so the Lowdown Show, but it's the and then LO Down Show, and check out this interview that I did with my friend Edwin. I always enjoy going on and his show while he tries to build up his own channel. Like and subscribe his stuff too. He needs some support. So Edwin writes this: sorry to hear about Bella. I went through the same thing with the loss of my dog, and Star Wars and God helped me in that time. Yep, I quoted Yoda as well. Forever sleep. I keep saying when my dog passed, and I'll be praying. Thank you, Edwin. I appreciate it, and it was really great talking to you on Friday. Friend of the show, JOB writes, very sorry about Bella. I feel your pain and sorry for your loss. As far as Star Wars goes, I'll be happy with whatever we get. However, I think the new movies would be better served to take place after the Rise of Skywalker. I say this because they wouldn't be beholden to anything. They could look for the future. They could look to the future. Yeah, I agree with you. I like these characters a lot. I'm going to be really direct about something, and I don't think we're going to see John Boyega come back to the Star Wars universe, and quite frankly, I'm personally okay with that. I know that he's gotten and received a lot of grief from toxic fans online. This is just my personal opinion, right? I'm sure that John Boyega is a good guy. I love his portrayal as Finn. He's a great character. Enjoy his character throughout all the films. As a matter of fact, I'm a defender, probably more so than John Boyega is, of his role and his storyline in The Last Jedi. I thought that was a great storyline, and I think his battle with Phasma is fantastic. However, as an ambassador for Star Wars, in my opinion, it doesn't help when he fights back and uses profanity. Not that I'm any prude by any stretch of the imagination, but when he goes online and pushes back against the toxic fandom and, basically says, I'm done with all you guys and all that, look, I get it. I see where it's coming from, but take the high road, man. You're a movie star. Why address it? Why, rise above it? And there's no need to do that. So I don't think we'll see him come back. But I say all that because we are done with the Skywalker saga. And I think there are some amazing stories that could be told about Rey, and if John Boyega were back, and Finn, and Poe, and you could move beyond the Rise of Skywalker with these characters and develop a new saga, but bring something wholly new. Give me my Zori Bliss live action show, please. Get the Bobs on the phone. Bobs, I want Zori Bliss, and I want Babu Frick on a live action show. And combine it with Dr. Aphra or something. I think it'd be awesome. And if you need a writer, I know a guy that writes books. He'd be pretty good. Have I mentioned I'm on vacation? All right, thank you, J.O.B. Now we go to friend of the show, on to Vesuvi. My deepest condolences to you and your family, John. It's very brave of you to ease Bella's suffering. Many wouldn't or couldn't. I've had to help pets and loved ones similarly. Hugs. Hashtag my nerd world with Jon Justice. Hashtag Star Wars. Thank you, Vesuvi. I really do appreciate that. Let's see here. Did I not put the name down? I think this is more from Vesuvi, or it might be Gen G. Either way, I apologize, because when I cut and pasted into my listener feedback, I don't think I put the name. All right, I'm gonna read this in. It might be from Brennan. Anyway, what scene do you think captures everything Star Wars is about in a nutshell? Interesting. For me, it's the final scene of The Last Jedi, when the kids on Canto Bight share the tales of Luke Skywalker. The reason I feel this is Star Wars in a nutshell is because it shows us what Star Wars is. It's a fairy tale that we tell our children and each other to inspire hope. Just as the kids in The Last Jedi were inspired by the tales of Luke, we as an audience can take a similar inspiration. Yeah, this might be from Brendan. From our Star Wars heroes and strive to do better in our world. What do you think? Yeah, that's a really good example as far as what do I think, what scene do I think captures everything Star Wars is about in a nutshell. Man, that's really tough. I think you can actually take finales of a vast majority of the films and do that. There's something, you look at the end of, and let's go with Return of the Jedi, The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. Those finales are all very similar. Well, and you can get back into Revenge of the Sith as well, and you can also go and do The Phantom Menace, where you have these multiple storylines converging and happening at the same time, leading up to the finale. I understand what you're saying, sort of a singular scene that encapsulates that, and I think you're right. That Canto Bight scene works really well. But I would also say a scene I'm not the biggest fan of, but along the same lines, the scene in Return of the Jedi where C-3PO is reenacting the stories and using sound effects from his own personal speaker system on Endor, and Leia's there, getting snuggly and cozying up to Han Solo among the fire, and then they're all members of the tribe. And I think that is a bit of that scene in The Last Jedi is a bit of a mirror of that scene. And both of those have and do very similar things to what you mentioned here. I love Star Wars, man. I've actually been denying myself because I had intended on watching the entire all 9 films this week, and I haven't started doing that yet, apart from A New Hope, and I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm definitely going to watch all of the Disney era films because I have spent some time recently in the more recent past with the prequels and with the original trilogy that I think I'm going to spend. I think I'm definitely going to watch all the Disney films this week. So thank you, if that was you, Brennan, for that. If it wasn't you, then thank you to whoever it was. Lastly, Jen G writes this. I'm so sorry, John. Pets are family, and it's heartbreaking to have to let go. I'll be thinking about y'all tomorrow, and yes, 2020 does suck. Drew, who works with me, does a co-host on the show that I do Monday through Friday. He's under the impression that we're going to get a 2020 redemption. I don't know about that, but I like the energy. I like the optimism. I do think this week we are going to get some Star Wars news. I really do. I think Disney's been holding out. I think Lucasfilm's been holding out. I think that if it wasn't for what was happening, we would have gotten a ton of stuff that they had planned on dropping this week. So to wait, I don't know. I'm being really optimistic, and perhaps Drew is right, and this will also be a part of our 2020 redemption. All right, a couple things before we go. If you want to support the show, the way you can do that is by going and purchasing some science fiction space opera novels. The EMBARK Trilogy, and I've added a subtitle to Book 1. It's now EMBARK, The Great Evacuation, Book 1. Also, Book 2, Treasure in Darkness, and Book 3, The Vanishing War, are all available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Right now, at least Sunday, that's today, and tomorrow, Monday, you can actually pick up the ebook for Book 1 for free. I'm doing a free giveaway of the ebook for Book 1 for the next 2 days. So, and, just go get yourself a copy. Just for fun. Just have it, right? You give away and you sell as many of the first book, right? And then it gets everybody into the rest of the series. That's kind of the point. Also this week, this is special. It's giveaway week. All week, My Nerd World will be accepting entries to win autographed copies of the complete EMBARK trilogy. First prize will be a signed complete EMBARK trilogy with the updated Book 1 cover, and that includes free shipping in matte covers, which is beautiful. It feels really cool. Has a very sort of almost like a rubbery feel on the cover. I dig it. Second, third, and fourth place prizes will include signed copies of EMBARK Book 1, glossy edition, first edition paperback, also with free shipping. So, names are going to be randomly drawn on next week's Saturday, August 29th, My Nerd World, a Star Wars podcast. You do not have to listen or download to win. If your name is drawn, I will announce it, and I will send you an email and let you know. The estimated retail value on the first prize is $42, and the estimated retail value on second, third, and fourth place prizes is $13.99 each. So, John, how do I get my name in the drawing? Go to mynerdworld.net, hit the link on the homepage, and it will take you to the My Nerd blog, which is where it's at. There's a form right there. You put your name in, give me your email, say EMBARK giveaway, and I will add you to the mailing list. No spam. I do not collect your information, and I will not sell your information. Your privacy is of the utmost importance to me. But if you can also just drop me an email right now. So if you want to get in on the giveaway and you don't want to go to mynerdworld.net and you're like, John, I've already bought the books. I've already left you positive reviews. You want me to email you again? Well, yeah, if you want these books, I do. TalkShowNerd@gmail.com or go to mynerdworld.net and fill out the form on the My Nerd blog. Entries have to be in by Friday midnight. So midnight Friday night going into Saturday. That is the deadline to enter is midnight August 29th. So do not delay and get your entries in and get added to the mailing list. And, of course, go pick yourself up some copies of the book anyway to support the show. All right, that's it for this week. I went for a long bike ride, and I haven't taken a shower yet. I'm actually doing the show in my workout gear. And nobody's home, but I stink. So I'm going to go hop in the shower and go watch a ton of racing today. I got the Indy 500. I got an Xfinity race and another Cup race. I'm going to do some riding and enjoy my time off, which includes eating leftover pizza. Thank you so much for checking the show out. I look forward to hearing from you. Take advantage of the contest. Go buy yourself some books. Leave reviews if you haven't done so already. I need all the reviews I can get. And I'll talk to you guys again next week. Bye.
The Force will be with you. Always.
My Nerd World.